Jamie, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for being here.
Well, thanks for having me on. It's great. I've been looking forward to connecting.
We, for everybody listening, Jamie and I have some history. I don't know if it's been over 10 years maybe at this point, but
I think so, at least.
Hung out. We had a good time in New Orleans. We were dancing, and I don't think you made it to the casino with us. I think that I went with a couple other guys. That was
Okay, we're going right into that. Okay, all right, yeah.
You would know the guys too, and they were just fun to be around. So it was
yes, definitely some good times.
Yes. Thank you for taking the time. Your path, if you can kind of break it down, is the kind of the teaming. You've worked with elite teams, you work with high level advisors. So you've been immersed in advisors that are running businesses, not just selling product to make a living. So if you can take us on kind of high level journey of where you are today, and I want to unpack the argument for building a team.
Yeah, no, I love it. So let me kind of give a little bit of just history, kind of how I got here. I dipped my toe in the industry well over 20 years ago, back in 2002. And, I've been mostly on the insurance BD side. I started with the company, General American, was acquired by MetLife, eventually acquired by MassMutual, spent some time at Pru, and now I'm with a boutique wealth management firm, and in a variety of different roles over those years, both field facing as well as kind of in the corporate home office side. I've also been very blessed to have some good leaders and mentors in my life kind of guiding me along the way. And eventually, I found my passion, which was practice management. And so I've been in that space for many years now. Really, I would say behind the scenes, helping advisors build thriving, successful businesses. And so we, at MetLife, kind of where you and I met, we had built the roadmap for team formation and team development. And so I spent many years coaching and consulting with advisors on how to build high performing teams. Eventually transitioned to leadership at Pru. I led their practice management organization, their financial planning center of excellence. And now I've been with Janney, which is a boutique wealth management firm. I lead their business development, teaming, and succession organization. So I have a group of great and talented coaches and consultants, and we work with our advisors on helping them with their organic growth strategies to helping build high functioning, high performing teams, and eventually helping them think about their exit strategies from the business and making sure that they're capitalizing on the value that they've built in these businesses over the years, and that they can leave a lasting legacy. So it's been an incredible journey. I love this business. I love what I do. I'm married to an advisor as well, as you know, kind of live and breathe this industry every day. And, at a time where we have more advisors leaving the industry than we do coming to the industry, I feel fortunate to be in this role. I think we really exist to help advisors like you and everybody else out there become better versions of themselves so they can continue to do the great work for clients and for generations of clients to come. So it's been a really rewarding journey.
What do you think, sitting in the seats you have, as I think about the practices I get to interact with, the advisors we coach, there's the newer advisors that just don't know what they don't know yet, like open-minded, but just don't have enough information to kind of choose a path yet. You do have the advisors that say, hey, I'm going to make enough money for myself if I'll just keep doing this thing. And, it's not great, but it's not bad. And I'll just kind of ride that out. I'd say that's kind of the average path. And then you get the advisors that kind of emerge as like business owners that want to learn how to lead people and build an organization that can flourish without them being there every day. What do you find is like the obstacle from, the young advisor realizing what's possible and then not getting stuck in the average path? Because I'd say most advisors are just running businesses that, they're really bad bosses to themselves. They work too much, they don't have much structure, and then some break out and build healthy organizations. What stops advisors from doing that?
Well, I think that going back to that old slogan, you want to go, fast, go alone. You want to, go far, go together. I think advisors need to know the difference in that. I also think it's a matter of what they're trying to build, whether they're trying to build more of that lifestyle practice, so just work as hard as they can and get as much out of the business as they can, or if they're truly wanting to build an enduring business that's bigger than themselves, that's not 100% dependent on them. And I think getting, your mindset right around what you're trying to build and what you're trying to do and what you need to get there is the biggest challenge from going from that lifestyle practice to kind of that enduring business model. So I think when you kind of transition your mindset into I want to build something bigger than myself, kind of leave that lasting legacy, you start to think about how do we, scale and grow this thing more thoughtfully, more intentionally. Everybody's going to hit that, ceiling of complexity or capacity where you can't break through that proverbial ceiling. So thinking about building your team, with the right people at the right time, doing the right things, and thinking about even just kind of the business that you're trying to build in terms of the client needs and their complexities and what you need in order to get from here to there. There's a lot that goes into that. And advisors, again, have to be willing to put in the work and invest the time and the energy and effort and build it the right way. I don't think there's a shortcut to get there.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think it's one of those things where it's accepting it's going to be challenging and you're going to learn a lot. You're probably going to hire the wrong person. You're probably not going to have great expectations when you onboard somebody, and that like being able to live in that tension as you gradually improve versus I'm a natural leader and I know how to do this. And if it's too challenging, that must mean I shouldn't. And so I'm just going to go back the other way.
Well, listen, it's a journey. And I know you know this because you've been there.
And they're with me a few times. Yeah.
It's not a race, it's a journey. And, there's going to be times where you got to take a couple steps back in order to move forward, and you've got to trudge through the mud a little bit, but you got to keep your eye on, what's most important, and, work your way through it and leverage, again, other peers that have been through it and have been in your shoes, or other, experts, resources at your firm. But I think you've got to have a long-term vision. You've got to really sit down and think about the long-term game plan and how do I go from here to where I need to go. And I think it's, the strategic business planning. I think a lot of folks, like you said, kind of, have struggled with the talent piece, getting the right people on the bus, in the right seats, doing the right things, making sure that there's scalable, repeatable systems and processes. All of those things, a strong communication, working on culture. You mentioned leadership. Not all advisors are meant to be great leaders. So really having some of those, look in the mirror moments, whereas, I got into this business because I'm a great advisor, I'm a great networker, a great rainmaker, whatever. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're a great business leader.
Yeah.
So making sure that you've really kind of analyzed what you need for the business, who you need for the business to get where you're going, is a big struggle. It's something that, all advisors face.
Yeah, I think of the idea of teaming and how I've interacted with it throughout my career. That early on, teaming was my way of getting experience faster, like joining a team and being around experts. And then teaming was I need more people in order to grow faster. So it's like a teaming in the sense of like a growth phase. And then it's teaming in the context of succession. Like, can I have something here that whether I sell it over time or sell it all at once, whatever it looks like, I think the value of a team has presented itself in different ways. But I don't know if there's ever been a point in my career where I was like, no, I think it's better just to do this alone and have balance in my life and somehow make the money I want to make. Like I don't know if you've run into anybody that's just doing it on their own or like a one advisor with a couple assistants practice, but to me, you will not reach your potential without a team.
No, I listen, again, do I see it? Absolutely. There are certainly still advisors who are still trying to operate as solo advisors. And I'm sure you can imagine their growth trajectory is just not as solid and strong as others who have kind of gone the path of being a part of a team. And that's okay. Again, not everybody is meant to be in a team, but I do think that this industry and the complexities that come along with it, it's just becoming more and more increasingly difficult to be a solo advisor in this space. But you said something that everybody's growth trajectory is different, and they're at a different place on their journey. And you have to recognize that. All teams are, not made to be, the same. There's no one size fits all. And you've got to understand where you are in the journey and how you evolve from there. I think the evolution of your team is really critical. What you need today are not the same things that you might need, 3 and 5 and 10 years from now. Your priorities are not the same that they are today versus, 3 and 5 years and 10 years from now. So you've got to be open to, again, kind of the evolution and doing that strategic planning and thinking about what is my next move and how do I navigate where I'm at today to get to where I want to go tomorrow.
Yeah. What would you say is some of the recurring advice you find yourself giving? The broken records that you're like, man, when it comes to teaming, practice development, these are things that you can't really ever skip. You have to go through, but you don't have to do the most challenging way either.
There is no shortcut. There's no easy button. And so I would say the common things that I have to repeat over and over again. And I know it sounds cliche, but it's having the clear vision and strategy, putting in the work, investing in the time to work on the business, not just in the business. And so we're always guilty of that. I think it's the importance of having strong culture, and that consistent communication, really making sure that your entire team is aligned around those values, the belief systems, kind of making sure you've got that cadence of meetings and accountability. Over and over again, it's around solid human capital strategy. Again, making sure you've got the right people on the bus doing the right things in the right seats. A lot around the growth mindset, making sure that you've got a team that you've built around you that are always striving to learn and grow and strategically thinking about how we get things to the next level. That leadership piece is always important too, really navigating that with advisors on why it's so important. And if you're not, cut out for that, we need to make sure that we've got someone else who is on the team. And I think, the advisors that are most successful certainly are always keeping the client center of everything they do. They build their entire team and their entire model around what are we doing for the client and how can we take this to the next level with the client in mind. But certainly the strategic business planning piece, the culture and communication, the roles and responsibilities and delegation, all of those things are just so critical to any high performing team, whether in this industry or in any other industry you come across, are really essential. And they're not easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it. So, but those are the common things that I am consistently hearing.
Yeah, I think back to some of those offsite events we had that you would host and lead in multiple days. And I think there is a difference between me sitting in that room before I had a team and like kind of understanding the stuff you were telling me about practice development, team development. And then once you get in it, you almost can never be fully prepared for it. And no matter how much reading you do, it's like now that I'm the one making the choice and dealing with did I set clear expectations? Hey, did I onboard the wrong person? And so for me, it was humbling and also just a wake up to study, read, get around peers. But there's so much of this that you just have to step into and learn as you go about like, what type of a leader am I? Like, how do I make people feel? Do I lead more by encouragement or is it more by, carrot stick? And sometimes people respond well to this. And so I've just kind of being pushed into it. I've learned a lot about myself and then realized that team can do it that way and it works. They're generally doing the same thing, but I do have to realize my style might be slightly different.
I think that's really important. I think the human component is sometimes missed and just how critical and how important that is and that cultural aspect, and your leadership in it all. I think those that have been very successful know how to really blend the art and science of leadership. They can motivate with the vision, kind of the art, if you will, but they can make decisions with precision, the science part of it, so they can blend that human connection and component with the strategic business planning and the focus on results. You've got to know your people. You've got to understand what motivates them, how they're wired. You've got to understand their strengths and skill sets and what they bring to the table, and making sure that they're in the right roles. Everybody likes to be communicated with differently. We use a lot of, DISC and Colby assessments. There's a lot that goes into that. And we don't really think about that until, like you said, you're in it and you're like, what do I do? And how do I navigate this? And I think there's a lot of vulnerability that goes along with it too, of just, you're not always going to get it right. Being willing to say, hey, listen, that didn't go so well, or, I made a mistake, or, just having that ability to really be raw and vulnerable sometimes with your team goes a long way. And so, yeah, there's way more that goes into it than people realize. But if you stick with it and you, again, learn and grow together, benefits are abundant for sure.
As I was hearing you talk, my mind kind of went to two places, like the knowledge to and the curiosity to realize I'm not the first one to do this. So there's best practices, there's resources. Don't try to invent the wheel on my own. But then there's like the courage to do it. So there's like the book smart side of it, but then there's like the now I'm going to step into it and learn as I go while constantly remaining curious to get better. And I think as I say that out loud, like that's kind of what I've had to do is a little bit of both. That I could have never from you said, "Hey, Sten, you tried. Here's the playbook. Follow it." And I do the best I can, and it still doesn't always go as I hoped. And then I have to adjust and try it again.
Yeah. Listen, we're not recreating the wheel. There's so many people out there that have gone before you and any other advisor in building successful teams. Sometimes a lot of what a coach or consultant does, I feel like they need a, kind of a couch in their office to just work through some of that head trash and kind of the fears that advisors have of, their limiting beliefs. But then I think even once you get beyond that, I think the peer sharing and then the stuff that you're doing with Elite Advisor Network and bringing peers together and, and learning from others, or having a great mentor in your life, or leveraging your local leadership, or leveraging kind of the internal practice management organizations, or there's so many phenomenal external coaches. You and I have worked with a lot of those external coaches before. And so you don't have to go it alone. You don't have to figure it out on your own. The path is there, but you're going to kind of ebb and flow and figure out what works best for you, and evolve. I think the ones that just kind of set it and forget it are the ones that struggle the most. The ones that are not taking the time intentionally to take a step back. All right. What's working? What's not working? Where do I need to pivot? Where do I need to grow? What do I need to do differently? I think the most successful teams are doing that regularly and often, and they've got that, cadence for taking a step back and reassessing.
Yeah. And I will say I'm convicted to this point now where I'd say to reach your potential, you have to have a team. I've found, as talked to a lot of advisors, that there's a basic team structure that I think can be a multi-million-dollar practice, and you can have some balance in your life. That you would have a lead advisor, a junior advisor, some type of pair planner, and then some support staff, like and maybe two. And like that's a team of 5. It's not a huge organization, but what you can do by delegating and have people not wear multiple hats but focus on their one thing, I've seen better job satisfaction because they're not having to pivot. And you're like, hey, wait, you hired me for this, but now you're asking me to do that. I've had people quit because they're like, this half of this job isn't something you even told me. And it was the idea that like, well, I'm a business owner, so I'm willing to wear all the hats. Asking that of every new team member is not fair. Clear KPIs, not having those, that's not fair. And so there is something as a leader that like is our responsibility to give them clarity. But the alternative is I'm overworked. I'm not home as much as I want to be. That I don't meet when coaching a lot of individual solo practicers that are like, I'm doing what I want to do. Like this is the dream. If you ask them and you're sitting somewhere and they're honest, they're like, I know there's a better way. I just don't know what to do next. So if you're talking to the solo advisor with 1 or 2 support staff, what does that couch session look like usually to get them to take the next step?
Yeah, no, that's it. That is so common, where, you can have the best people around you, but if there's not clear roles and clear responsibilities and everybody's really leaning into their unique strengths and abilities, can be total chaos and it can be a complete inefficient waste of everybody's time, where everybody's wearing multiple hats, everybody's, not staying in your lane. And it's just, again, it's not the best path to take. And ultimately, again, to your point, people leave, or you're just going to continue to bang your head against the wall and you're not going to be able to break through that, next level. So what I typically, would ask advisors is to, again, take a step back and do an assessment of what's needed. Where's the pain points? What's falling through the cracks? Do we have a lot of times I would also say I see advisors throwing more people at a problem versus taking a step back and thinking about, can we scale this? Is there a technology piece that we can fit in here that we can, automate, delegate, or whatever that may be? So it's really taking a look at what's causing the drag in the business and thinking about the people that are on the team right now. What are they doing on a regular basis? Where are they spending their time? Again, what do they enjoy doing? What are they great at doing? Where are you spending your time? Are you spending more of your time on the non-revenue generating activities versus really being out front in front of clients doing what you do best? So it's a process of, really kind of understanding what systems and processes they have in place, but also how they're leveraging their current talent and making sure we identify what's the actual need and then find the person to bring on next. It's, it's a it's a 50-50 chance. I mean, sometimes, again, it's a fix in the process. And it's not another body that we need. But if it is another body, let's be intentional and thoughtful about who that is and making sure that everybody has a path. But the other thing that I think is important too, as you're building out your team and you're thinking about bringing talent, the attracting, retaining, and developing talent is a tough business. And especially now. And so making sure, again, there's clear expectations, there's a clear roles and responsibilities, but there also an understanding of kind of the career path. And what does this look like for me? How do I grow within this team? I want to be something, bigger than where I'm at now. And being able to really think about that before you bring someone on is really important, especially to, again, attract and retain the best talent today.
Yeah, I've started shifting to trying to have a quarterly coaching meeting with each of my team members
Love that.
because I do that with advisors. I'm doing that with my clients, and I'm like, I at least need to hold space. And what I've learned is that first meeting is usually not very interactive
No.
because for them it's kind of new. It's like, yeah, I wish I could tell me exactly what they need, but it's, hey, great, I want to keep doing this with you. What do you want to accomplish? And hey, do you want to get a new license? What does that look like? And so I think for me, everybody listening, if you start doing this, expect that first one to be you asking a few questions, then maybe being a little nervous. And it may not be until maybe the third one you do that they start engaging a little bit more.
I couldn't agree more. I think it's so critical for everybody to have that space where it's time out just to talk about you and where the business is going and what your development path is and where you see yourself on the team and where can I help you? Where's your challenges? What are you struggling with? What can we do to help you continue to grow in this role? Not enough do that. And I think it's incredibly important that there's a space for that. And again, I think it's also understanding where your strengths as, an individual is. If that's not your strong suit, making sure that you have a strong practice manager or business manager, or eventually, I've seen a lot of teams that are hiring the COOs to do those things, but they're incredibly important to the business and to your team. So making the space to do that is really important.
Yeah. So for everybody listening, I think I'm hearing you tell us there's identifying where the needs are, not jumping to hire somebody every time. Like it could be a process thing. I think it's the idea of, is this even something you need to do? Like, are you trying to create something around something that's just not that important? But if it is a person thing, and this is what I run into, is advisors are either worried they don't have the revenue. And I could say very easily, you're losing more money by not hiring the person you need than waiting. Or it's just kind of the fear of head trash of like, I haven't hired people before and I don't know how to onboard them. I don't even know if I'm a good boss. And I think really the only thing there is, yes, there's best practices. If you're in the Elite Advisor Network, we'll give you the job descriptions, the KPIs we use. So like that stuff is there. But it's the courage piece of just saying, I see the advisors ahead of me that I want to be like. most of them, or I would say all of them, have some type of team. They think like a business owner. So now I just need to step into that world that feels uncertain and just not give up.
Yeah, I mean, oftentimes it's when you can most uncomfortably afford it, that's the best time to bring someone in.
Mm.
When you're struggling and you're in that mud, it's really difficult. And I recognize that and I can appreciate that. But the benefits of bringing, additional talent on is tenfold. I mean, and I'm sure you've seen it time and time again. Every time you bring on someone new to your team, Sten, it instantly adds capacity and the ability to do more, and to lean in kind of where your superpowers are. So it's scary. And I know that, and there can be some of that head trash, but I promise in the end, the path is there. And like you said, the resources are there. You just have to believe in yourself and invest in yourself to know this is going to take me to that next level. And it's also what's going to be in the best interest of my clients. Imagine what I can do for my clients when I free up my capacity and, add this different system or process or add this different, talent to the team. It's well worth it.
Yeah. I mean, if you're listening and you are not a full believer yet, I think it's helpful to look to people that have been down the path. And what I do not run into is advisors saying, I wish I didn't have a team. I wish I didn't have support. They were uncertain. They didn't maybe know how to do it. But if we can look ahead of us and it's like, no one is saying this is the wrong path. I think for me now, I'm learning that's enough for me to explore it, and get resources and get help on that front. So you are not available to everybody listening, unfortunately. So you're at Janie. Good for you. You get to call Jamie, but lean into any resources you have around you. If you have a practice development, if you have a Jamie type person at your firm, call them, use them, because once you go down this path, you will see the benefits. You'll feel the tension, you'll feel the struggle, but all of that is just you growing as a business owner, and it's well worth it.
Well said, Sten. Well said. Couldn't agree more. Don't try to go it alone. Again, there's a lot of peers and mentors and other internal, external resources that you can tap into. You do not have to recreate the wheel. You just have to believe in yourself and believe in what your clients need as well. And just start the process. Take the baby steps. I think the other thing to just be mindful of is I think it's easy for people to see those teams that are wildly successful. It doesn't happen overnight.
Oh, yeah.
So just set expectations and take one step and another step and you'll get there. But you've got to stay devoted and committed and working on the business, not just in the business.
Well said. I appreciate you.